Shalom, this is Daniel John Lee with Torah Restoration Ministries. The website is www.spiritandtorah.com. And this is my midweek podcast, episode 32, Hebrews 7, A Change in the Torah. So I wanted to go over Hebrews 7 because a lot of times Christians will misunderstand what Hebrews 7 is about, and they take that passage out of context, trying to say that the whole Torah or the whole law of Moses has been changed or disannulled, and that's not exactly what it's saying. And I'm going to prove that by reading the entire context of what Hebrews 7 is saying. So probably a lot of you are familiar with Hebrews 7. It's the chapter about Melchizedek. Abraham pays his tithe to Melchizedek, who is the king of Shalem, which means peace. And the author is trying to make the point that Yahshua, Jesus, is a priest in the order of Melchizedek, which is distinct and different from the Levitical order, which was where the priests had come from. The Torah specified that a priest could only come from the tribe of Levi. But we know that Yahshua, who is our high priest, he came from the tribe of Judah. So how do we reconcile this? So let's go into, we'll start in verse 11. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the Torah, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron? For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the Torah. Okay, so the statement is made, the priesthood has been changed, and therefore there is a change in the Torah. So what is this change in the Torah? Well, the next few verses explains exactly what the change is. And I'm going to read, starting in verse 13. For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spoke nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek there ariseth another priest, who is made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. For he testifies, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. So, what was changed? The priesthood was changed. What was the change in the Torah? The Torah only allowed a priest to come from the tribe of Levi. But now there's a change. Now a priest can come from a tribe that's not Levi, namely the tribe of Judah, which is where Jesus, Yahshua, was born. He was from the tribe of Judah. Both of his parents were from the tribe of Judah. So that's all that was changed. Nothing else was changed. That specifically is what was changed, because the author in Hebrews says that. Verse 18, for there is verily a disannulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. Okay, so what commandment was disannulled? What commandment was changed? The commandment that was disannulled was, thou shalt not murder? No. Thou shalt not commit adultery? No. What was disannulled? Were the dietary laws disannulled? No. The commandment that was disannulled was simply that a priest could only come from the tribe of Levi. That commandment was disannulled, because now a priest can not just come from Levi, but it can come from the tribe of Judah. Going on, why does the author refer to this Levitical priesthood as weakness, unprofitableness, not making anything perfect? I mean, after all, Yahweh was the one who created the Levitical priesthood. So are we saying that something that Yah made was weak or unprofitable? The reason the author uses those words is because the Levitical priest, he had to offer an offering on Yom Kippur every year to atone not only for the sin of the people, but for his own sin. He had to do this year by year. And of course, when that high priest died, another high priest had to be appointed. Now compare that to Yahshua. He was sinless. He never broke the Torah. He always followed the law of love. He did not have to offer sins for himself. He only had to offer sins as a perfect, sinless sacrifice for the people. He only had to do this once, one time. And then he ascended not into a tabernacle pitched with hands, but the heavenly tabernacle. This is why, in comparison when the Melchizedek priesthood is compared to the Levitical priesthood, in comparison, the Levitical priesthood is weak and unprofitable because Yahshua was able to take care of it in one sacrifice. And that's what the remainder of Hebrews talks about. So whenever you read this chapter and you read the statements that disannulling of the commandment, a change in the priesthood, a change in the Torah, don't let anyone tell you that this means the entire law was changed. That's not true. It's still wrong to commit adultery. It's still wrong to lie. It's still wrong to break the Sabbath. It's still wrong to do these things. What was changed, specifically, it's told in Hebrews, what was changed was the priesthood, and specifically from which tribe a priest could come, and why the Melchizedek priesthood is superior to the Levitical priesthood. Now in Malachi chapter 3, it says that when Yahshua returns for a second time, his second return, which has not happened yet, that's still in our future, it says he will purge the Levites. He will purge the Levites. If you read in Zechariah 14, when it talks about Yahshua ruling and reigning as a king, it says he will be in Jerusalem. It says every year all the nations of the earth will come up to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Any nation that does not will receive drought. That has not occurred yet. Yahshua came as a suffering servant. He has not come as a ruling king, but he will one day come as a king. If you read the final verses in Zechariah 14, it says that offerings will be made, sacrifices will be made in a reestablished temple. If you couple that with Malachi 3, we also read that Yahshua is going to reestablish the Levitical priesthood. So the Levitical priesthood, although inferior to the Melchizedek priesthood, has not passed away. And in fact, the Levitical priesthood will work hand in hand with the Melchizedek priesthood. If you remember the setup of the tabernacle, there was the holy place and then there was the most holy place. Two distinct and separate areas. The most holy place could only be accessed by the high priest only once a year on Yom Kippur, which happens in the fall. The holy place was where the altar of showbread was, the altar of incense, and the candlestick, the seven candlestick menorah. And that was accessed all throughout the year by not just the high priest, but many priests. Two distinct chambers, and yet they were both within the confines of the temple. In the same way, the Melchizedek priesthood is similar to the most holy place. The Levitical priesthood is similar to the holy place. They are distinct. They are separate. The most holy place is obviously superior to the holy place. And yet, they both form a whole, an organic whole. Same thing with law and grace. You can't separate law and grace or works and grace. They work hand in hand. You need both of them. If you say your faith is just about grace and has no works, then your faith is dead. But if it's all works and tradition and no grace, no love, then it's hollow and you're like the Pharisees. So just like grace and law or grace and works have to work hand in hand, they're organic whole, so too the Levitical and the Melchizedek priesthood form an organic whole. And that's one of the subjects that the book of Hebrews explores. So it's very important to understand what changed in the Torah. It's very important to understand why the Melchizedek priesthood does not replace the Levitical priesthood, but it is superior to the Levitical priesthood. Okay, I hope this podcast was informative. I hope it blessed you, and I will see you again on Shabbat. Have a great rest of your week. Shalom.